Langris makes his first appearance since this time skip, and we finally get to see the results of Asta and Liu Bei's training. We are going to get into all of it as we review Chapter 272 of Black Clover. Anyway, hey YouTube, it's basically Anime today. After waiting for a whole week, we have Black Clover chapter 272 to review for you guys today. Now, we left off with Asta and Liu Bei struggling to figure out their fighting dynamics as they try to beat Noct in training, and today we find out if they managed to do it, and we also get to see a surprise guest who is someone we've been wanting to see since the time skip. But before we get into that, if you're first time to this channel and you love Black Clover manga and anime related content, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for more Black Clover content. So we start off the chapter with a nice color pager cover of Liquida in the background as Asta and Liu Bei, the sons of Liquida, stare at each other and smile. We also got some text next to them as it says two of their fates now overlap, and I think it's pretty nice how the writers worded that phrase and how they came up with it, as Liu Bei started as a lower being from the underworld without any magic, and Asta started as a human in the real world without any magic either, and somehow they are now friends and super powerful. It touches on the two people from different worlds concept, but anyway, it's a nice color page overall, and it kind of makes me sorry for Liquida as she didn't live to see her two sons getting along like this. Anyway, the chapter is called The Hunting Ground of Darkness, chapter 272. As we start off the chapter with seeing someone panting, as the narrator then says, while Asta is training, this man is walking the path to be the strongest, and we see Yuno in the next panel looking at a cliff in a forest somewhere, as parts of this cliff gets erased by offensive spatial magic, as Yuno turns around to face the trees and says, why don't you come out and stop hiding, as we see someone we've been wanting to see for a while, Langris Vaude, appear from the trees. Now, ever since this time skip, everyone has been wondering, where the hell has Langris been? As we found out that Yuno is the current vice captain of the Golden Dawn, but before the time skip, apparently Langris was the vice captain, leaving us super confused. Now, it is possible that the writers just doesn't have this time or space to include Langris into the recent story, but the Golden Dawn headquarters were just attacked by Zenon, and Zenon stole their Magic Knight captain and slaughtered 50% of their members. So at that point, if Langris did not show up to defend his headquarters and save his captain, then it kind of confirms he either isn't vice captain anymore, there isn't two vice captains, or he's just not at the hideout. But it all gets clarified in this panel as Yuno addresses him as former vice captain Langris. Now, that might clarify some things, but we are still wondering what happened to Langris during the time skip. Now, by the recording of this video, there's still supposed to be an anime episode of Black Clover coming out in the next coming weeks titled Vice Captain Langris, so we might finally get some insights on what's happened to Langris and why he isn't the vice captain anymore. In the next panel, we next see Langris tell him not to call him that, and as always, Yuno is very rude. He then goes on to ask Yuno where Belle is, the Wind Spirits, and Yuno says she isn't coming out of her grimoire. Now, if you guys remember a few chapters back, Belle said she was saving up mana to defeat Zenon at the captain's meeting with Asta, Noct, and Yuno as they were strategizing how to defeat the Spade Kingdom, leading us to believe she's doing this right now by staying in the grimoire. As Yuno says he already planned out a strategy to take down Zenon, but then says to himself he can't confirm how effective this strategy is. But before he can explain that, as maybe he wants to try out wind magic against spatial magic, but before he can explain this, Langris then interrupts him and asks, what did you come here to do? As we have to remember, Langris has absolutely no idea what is going on in the Clover Kingdom, as apparently he's been in the wild. Now, I don't know if he's trying to get stronger like Merilona by living in the wild, but that doesn't sound like Langris, as we see him in the next panel in professional Magic Knight robes, leading me to believe he must have been on some international secret mission like Noct. And I remember we've also seen some occasions in the past where Magic Knights have been coming back from missions that were not in the Clover Kingdom. Anyway, and that must have led Yuno to take over as vice captain, as Langris wasn't really liked in the eyes of his peers or the publics, so I would understand him leaving for an international secret mission. After that, Yuno explains the situation. Langris smirks and says it can't be helped. You want me as a spatial magic user to help you with your training. As Yuno has already matched himself up with Zenon, Light Trad versus the Dark Trad, who is now able to use spatial magic, but we don't know if it's teleportation or he can use the offensive spatial magic like Langris. Now Yuno responds by saying he would like to do it by himself, but that this involves all of the Golden Dawn and that Langris must have gotten stronger and he needs his cooperation as they get ready for an epic wind magic first spatial magic training fight between Yuno and Langris as the time nears for Noct to pick his team to march on the Spade Kingdom. We then transition to where Asta and Liebe are currently fighting against Noct for union training, but we first see in the first panel Asta and Liebe dropping to the floor with obvious bruises and injuries on both of them, leading us to believe they have fought multiple times, and Noct confirms this as he says, "Again you have lost." Asta then says that Noct is incredibly strong and that he doesn't see him and Liebe winning, and also that Noct isn't even completely serious yet. Now this is probably nothing, but it gives us a look at how powerful Noct is and also how powerful the union technique Noct uses instead of the equal contract that Asta and Liebe have now done for the first time. We also notice that Liebe is out of his chibi form as Asta says, "Why haven't they figured out to transform?" Asta then notices that whatever injuries Asta has, it was also inflicted onto Liebe. Now this is one of the benefits / disadvantages from this contract that we have seen. Now in my opinion right now, I honestly wouldn't have gone through with this contract. I might have done something similar to Noct, as we haven't seen a strength boost, speed boost, not even a mental boost, or anything that would make the contract worth it in my eyes. We then see a box of food drop next to Asta and Liebe as they jump to eat it. When they eat, they notice that their injuries and stamina have been recovered, similar to what happens when they eat Charmy's food from her magic. Asta then says that the food is from the guy who defected from the Spade Kingdom and that he would have to thank him later for it. Asta turns around to Liebe and says, "Hi, we have an idea," or "I have an idea." But we then see in the next panels that Asta's idea was Liebe sitting on Asta's shoulders, similar to what you would see from two people playing chicken at a pool. Asta then screams, "Unite," while holding his katana, and I think that this adds a comedic factor to this chapter, as Black Clover does incorporate comedy into their manga and anime as well. But as expected, nothing happens. Liebe then screams at him and tells him it's not the time for jokes, which Asta responds by saying he wasn't joking, as we see two brothers from different worlds start to argue and start to scream at each other. While this is happening, we finally get a flashback from Noct, who has been chilling this whole entire chapter, still in his Shadow Demon form, and he still has his pack summoned, but they're just chilling, just staring at Asta and Liebe as we see Noct conversing with someone in the flashback, asking him if he is too tired, and well, that's it. I mean, in the flashback, he's holding a basket of clothes. A female is asking him, "Are you too tired?" And he says, "Are you too tired of being honest?" And they're kind of just bantering. Now, is this a love interest because it is a female, he is a male? Or is this some boring flashback? To be honest, it wasn't a flashback I was expecting, just because, well, I mean, I thought we were going to get some real info on his backstory, but we will get it eventually. I know people wanted to know what happened to him exactly in the Spade Kingdom, because Jack said, "I recognize you, but not with the same magic or attitude." And we also got to see a family portrait, but this family portrait was destroyed, and they're currently training in Noct's house, so eventually maybe when they're exiting, Noct will probably tell Asta what happened. Anyway, Noct then appears behind Asta and says it's nearly time to gather, and fortunately for us readers, what he means by this, it's nearly time for them to get ready for an epic war arc, Spade Kingdom vs Clover Kingdom. Now, I did a theory video a while back on this up and coming war arc, and it's so close, so make sure you go check that out because it's about to go down. Now, the original plan was to build a squad of the strongest Magic Knight captains and also incorporating some of the Magic Knights from various squads. Anyway, they're supposed to build a squad around Asta, get him to the ritual. Asta using his anti-magic is just supposed to stop everything. Anyway, back to the chapter where Asta is shocked and says he wasn't aware of the time being 2 days, and asks Noct what is he going to do now in order for him and Liebe to transform. Noct then replies in a calm voice, "There is nothing I can do." Now, if you guys remember a few chapters back before they started this training, Noct said if Asta fails to defeat Liebe or the demon at the time, that he will dispose of Asta's body at this altar. But we're about to see something from Noct, as chains from the ground start to fly wall to wall, as we hear a dark voice, as the room starts to darken. "If you can't do it, then die right here." He did say, or he said something along the lines, "If Asta and Liebe don't defeat me, I will kill you." Asta is shocked, his eyes widen as the room is filled with pitch darkness, as these hands, chains fly wall to wall, corner to corner, as the room starts to envelop in darkness. Asta screams for Liu-bei, but we hear nothing from Liu-bei as the room is completely pitch black. Asta, transforming into his black Asta form, says, "This pitch darkness." We hear from Noct, Monozone, hunting ground of darkness. So we finally get to see an amazing Monozone technique from Noct, but nobody ever thought about what would Noct's Monozone look like. Asta, staring at where Noct was supposed to be, all of a sudden is punched on the face, sending him flying back. Asta then stops himself and says, I can't send any kind of presence. I can't dodge these attacks." We hear Noct saying, "There was a possibility. What a pity," as Asta is hit with a flurry and combo of attacks on the stomach, on the head, on the back, pushing him side to side, up to down, front from back. Asta is done for. Darkness where I can't feel anything, the slowly creeping death. This is the absolute fear. He also goes on to say, even when we're backed into a corner, he's talking about Liu-bei, they cannot fuse. And Liu-bei is actually right next to him because, we didn't get to see him with this Monozone, but we found out that with Asta getting hit, Liu-bei also got hit, knocking them next to each other. We then see them thinking in unison. Thinking back to Dante and Zenon, Asta says, "We have to save Yami." Thinking back to Lakita and her death, Liu-bei then thinks to himself, "We have to avenge Lakita's death." And they both say, "I can't die right here. I can't let them win." As they get up and Noct stares at this, we start to see a flash of white in this Monozone. We hear the narrator then say, "A new power awakens," as we see an eye with a cross inside of it. Now, if you guys are kind of confused on what's going on here, we are now seeing Asta and Liu-bei's new unison form. A few panels back, we see Asta wanting to save Yami, Liu-bei wanting to avenge Lakita, and in that moment, they were thinking the same thing. We can't let each other die. Instead of thinking about their own personal gains, they started to think about each other's safety, and in that moment, they must have fused. But overall, I would give this chapter a 9.5 out of 10. Maybe if I saw some linguist action, I would have given it a 20 out of 10. Overall, this is the end of the video. I think in the next chapter, which shouldn't be on break, they're going to show us a little bit of Asta and Liu-bei's new transformation. Then they're going to have to cut back to Noelle and where she is with the elves, because as Noct said, this war arc is about to happen, and we're going to get to see Noelle's training and what she has done with this supposed ultimate magic. Overall, this is the end of the video. If you're first time to this channel, you love Black Clover manga and anime related content, make sure you smash the like button, hit that subscribe button, tune in for more. This is the end of the video. Have a nice day.